Hello everyone. I wanted to talk to you about Remembrance Day. Have you ever heard of that? It's kind of a special day in the UK and we celebrate it every year. And it's coming up. It's on the 11th of November. So if you live in the UK or if you're ever going to come, then watch this because you'll find out about an important day for us. Remembrance Day was created on the 11th of November 1919, exactly 1 year after the end of World War I. The armistice was signed on the 11th of November 1918. Now, an armistice can be temporary, but fortunately in this case it brought completely to an end World War I. It was King George V that inaugurated this Remembrance Day. To inaugurate something means to create and to officially put into place. So this Remembrance Day was officially put into place and it would happen every single year after that. And the reason for this day is to remember all of those members of the armed forces. And the armed forces are people fighting for the country in the Navy, the Royal Air Force and the Army. And to remember all those who died fighting in World War I. But since then, of course, it's become bigger than that. Not just people who died fighting in World War I, but all of those soldiers who die in combat all over the world. Now, this day is symbolically captured by the poppy, the red poppy. And why is the poppy the symbol of this day? Well, there's a couple interesting things behind that. First of all, on the battlefields of World War I, after almost everything had been destroyed and these places were empty, dead landscapes with hardly any nature left, unpleasant and ugly and brutal, one of the things that would grow would be the poppy. Because amazingly, a lot of the explosives from the weaponry had actually created the perfect conditions in the ground for poppies to grow. So on these landscapes with no colour, suddenly you would get poppies growing up, which are so vibrant and red. And they became a sense of hope, a sense of positivity, a sense of beauty in a place that didn't have any. And so soldiers would often take these poppies, put them in letters and send them back to their families. And there is also a famous poet who wrote a poem about the poppy, which really fixed the idea of the red poppy in everyone's imagination.
Saw sunset glow, loved and were loved.
And so from then, the poppy became the symbol of remembrance, the way that we remember people lost in fighting in war. Now on Remembrance Day, what do you actually do? Well, some people will buy a poppy and they will wear a poppy here or here to show that sign of respect and show that sign of remembrance. And the money that they use to buy the poppy goes to the charity, which then supports families who have had family members in war, who have lost loved ones, and people affected by the brutality of war. And around the UK, you can see cenotaphs. And cenotaphs are these big monuments that remember soldiers who died at war and their bodies were buried in another place. And so on Remembrance Day, quite often, we will lay poppies around these cenotaphs and also wreaths. Wreaths are simply a circular construction. You often have them at Christmas, made with holly and berries. However, in the case of Remembrance Day, they are wreaths of poppies, and we will lay these at cenotaphs. And finally, on Remembrance Day, there will often be a 1 or 2 minute silence observed. If you work in a public institution, if you're at a university or at a school, then quite often this will happen in your office place, in your workplace. And this usually happens at 11 o'clock. Why 11 o'clock? Because it's the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And that's the day and time that the armistice was signed, and therefore the day and time that we have our moment of silence. Now, there are some controversies around Remembrance Day. Now, a controversy is something which causes very different arguments from different sides and makes people very argumentative. And there is quite a lot of pressure on people in the public limelight, so famous celebrities, people on TV, to wear the poppy on Remembrance Day. And if they don't, well, sometimes people have got quite a lot of criticism. However, of course, I believe it should be their personal choice whether they want to wear the poppy or not. And finally, do you know the Tower of London? Have you ever seen images of the poppy installation at the Tower of London? Now, this happened on the centenary of the beginning of World War I, and a centenary is 100 years of something, so 100 years since World War I had started, and this was in 2014. There were quite a few thousands of ceramic poppies made. 800,000 ceramic poppies were around the Tower of London. Quite incredible. And over 10 million people saw them in its time. So it was a beautiful, incredible installation. It travelled all around the UK. If you haven't looked at it, check it out on Google. Check out some pictures. Type in Tower of London poppy installation. So I hope that was useful for you and you've learnt a little bit about Britain or British traditions. And so, before you go, I do want you to let me know, will you be wearing a poppy? Thank you very much for joining me today. It was nice to see you for this short, brief video. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, of course. And I'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.